How American schools create violence and stupidity.
American students are violent. Oh yeah.
I see fight videos on Twitter all the time. I never had a personal experience witnessing a fight at school. Did you guys ever witness people like fist fight? I watched people get like rowdy or like, you know, choke each other out rough a little bit, but not like full on. Like chat, you've seen people like fist fight. Like full on swinging at each other for like 10, 20 minutes.
And we're also kind of dumb.
Only 37% of high school seniors were academically prepared for college math and reading courses.
Why are so many
37%?
American adolescents so violent and uneducated? Because our school system is absolute garbage. 44% of American high school students experience school-related violence. 22% of students reported being in a physical fight. In the US, school fights happen all the time, and for petty reasons. Hardly anybody is shocked when a fight breaks out. And this violence isn't only between students. It's not rare to hear about fights between students and teachers as well. Some students have assaulted their teachers, leaving them severely injured. There are two big reasons why fights are so common in America.
Well, that's like loser shit, though. Fighting your teacher. I never understand that shit. That, like, just the level of disrespect to be able... unless there's, like, a genuine reason where it's like, yeah, your teacher said something so fucked up. Like, getting into a fight, unless they're mean, bro, even if your teacher's mean, dude. The way I'm perceiving it is, like, unless your teacher did something really fucked up, sometimes you just gotta eat dirt, bro. Like, in life, there's always gonna be somebody that's higher up than you that's gonna be able to tell you what the fuck to do. You're never gonna be on the top. You're never going to be on the top. Nobody's ever on the top. And whenever you think you're on the top, you're not. Like, you're on the top if you can accept and be happy with who you are and push to get in a better situation. I don't think you should just be complacent with the situation you're in. But if you're going to live your life as a high school student where you're like, my teacher pisses me off, I'm going to beat the shit out of him, you're never going to be able to live in the job world. You're never, I'm just talking on a power level. Even if you don't have a boss necessarily, if you're the CEO of a company, there's always going to be somebody that's bigger and better than you in terms of like monetary success or power, political power, societal power. You can't, or even conglomerates of people.
The first is because school authorities put very little effort into stopping violence. As punishment for school violence, students are usually suspended for a few days or receive a short detention. Some students even get away with it scot-free. Students don't fear the repercussions.
Yeah, I think that is a big problem, but you also are dooming that. The argument is if you expel kids that get into fights, you're basically ensuring that kid will work a minimum wage job for the rest of his life. If you expel a kid as a sophomore in high school and you go, you're never getting into college now, you're not even probably going to get into another public high school easily, your ass is probably not graduating high school. You're likely not getting anywhere. So they try to give more lenient punishments. So I get that. But the argument would be like, hey, make the rules more strict. Yeah, 5,000 kids are going to get expelled and fucked over, but then everybody's going to stop. I don't really know. I don't agree with that. I don't think just expelling the kids makes the most sense, but like having them not want to fight each other is a big thing.
So they are much more inclined to fight. And another reason why fights are so common in America is because social media glorifies these fights. Students will record and upload these fights onto TikTok and Instagram and get millions.
I think a big thing that you could do to stop that is kids that post the fights should get punished like almost as bad as the kids that are fighting. Because it encourages, every fight you see, they do. Oh, really? They already do that? Wow, I didn't know that. See, I don't know that. I don't know that shit. That's why I love having a chat here. But I was going to say, I feel like it would dissuade them slightly because when you witness fights on social media, it's always like the kid recording's always just fucking hyping it up. He said you're a fucking pussy. You gonna take that shit, Josh? You gonna take that shit from him, Josh? Fuck him up. Fuck him. You're just standing there just fucking egging it on. You know, literally being a hype beast to a fight.
millions of views. This has led to a culture which treats school fights as entertainment and encourages students to fight for praise and attention. The constant
entertainment, but it's also this like societal belief that if somebody wants to fight you and you don't fight, you're a pussy. Or if somebody swings on you and you don't fight back, you're a pussy. I don't like that. The rule in schools a lot of the time is the aggressor and the defendant will be equally punished. I think if somebody walks up to you out of nowhere and fucking cold cocks you straight in the face and you beat the shit out of him, you shouldn't be in trouble because you're defending yourself. I don't think somebody defending themselves should be in trouble. But I had friends in schools that would witness fights where the only way you weren't getting suspended or in trouble is if you literally let the kid kick the shit out of you and you just like fucking like cover yourself. Like while he's beating you up. It just sucks because then it puts you in a situation where like socially you're going to get shit on and you obviously don't want to let somebody just beat the shit out of you. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like the kid that like is the aggressor in that situation should always be the one that gets like, you know, I guess punished more. But at the same time, I see videos on Twitter, bro. Like there's been one that's just consistently popping up of this like white nerdy ass kid just calling this black kid the N-word hard R over and over again, like fucking 10, 20 times. And he's just saying it, and like they're holding the black kid back, and they end up like, he ends up like, you know, God, I keep saying like so much. Rewind. White kid calling the black kid the N-word a bunch of times. They're holding the black kid back. He ends up getting out of their hands. The white kid, immediate panic. No longer doubling down, no longer standing on his shit, saying the N-word to this guy, immediately turns and goes, "Help! Help! Help! Help!" Just fucking running away. And I'm just like, dude, this kid, I don't know. Either way, it's just disrespect, but it's like, bro, you literally, like, you knew you were just being a dick. Like that was literally a representation of how people act online. I don't want to say at least stand on it because you just shouldn't be calling black people the N-word. You shouldn't be saying the N-word in general. At the same time, though, he was acting how he would online, where like he'll just talk his shit because he knows he can't get hurt. And then the second that kid is able to actually get to him, he freaks out. Or there was another kid where he was like just berating this other black kid, and he was like, "Yeah, punch me, I'll sue you." And it's like that kid will get suspended for a week for saying the N-word. But if that kid punched him, then he'd be able to sue his ass. It's just so stupid. It's a fucking stupid situation where it's prompting people to fight, and there's like, how do you fix this?
He's terrified to come to school. Every day is the same thing, all day, from morning till the time they get out, different fights.
But school fights aren't the only source of violence. Bullying is also a massive problem in American schools. 22% of middle school and high school students report being bullied at school, and half of all students have experienced school-related cyberbullying. 160,000 American children miss school every day in fear of bullying. A Yale study found that bully victims are between 2 to 9 times more likely to consider unaliving themselves. In America, it's not uncommon for a child to unalive themselves because of bullying. This bullying isn't just an issue of students, but schools and faculty are also responsible for this. Students often face very minimal consequences for bullying.
The kid throwing punches was suspended for 3 days.
25% of teachers see nothing wrong with bullying, and teachers only intervene in 4% of bullying incidents. Here's a video showing a school bus driver encouraging a student to beat up another student.
All right, well, that school bus driver just needs to get fucking fired. But like that's just an easy fucking kick that guy out. But it's just, yeah, like that kid getting suspended for 3 days for beating the shit out of another kid. It's just stupid. I just don't understand the whole wanting to do that. Like physically assaulting people because you don't like them. Cyberbullying is something that's becoming worse and worse. I don't want to say I get it, but it makes more sense from the mind of somebody that's just trying to be like liked and funny than somebody that's like physically just hurting somebody else. It's like a power trip in both scenarios, right? Somebody beating the shit out of somebody else is a power trip, and somebody cyberbullying is a power trip. Both are bad. But the one is just like, fuck, man. Like, you're going to like walk into school and just like kick the shit out of some nerd because you don't like him. Like, that's just so cringe. It's just, and then are they going to look back at that when they're like 50 and be like, wow, I used to like beat people up? It's also like self-described or like self-reported bullying. Like, would you guys say you get bullied? Some of you are going to say, yeah. It's what level, it's so subjective on what people determine bullying as, unless you get into hyper-specific questions. Like, I got picked on at school. Like, people made fun of me. But, I mean, I did the same thing to them. Maybe sometimes it would be like an imbalanced relationship where you're getting picked on more than you pick on them. But even then, I would never go, yeah, I got bullied. But there are times where it's like, yeah, it's so obvious that somebody's getting bullied, but other times, I don't know. It's really up to the individual on whether or not they truly believe they are. I think it's a difference, too, between what level of joshing around they're doing versus actually, like, harmful personal attacks. If somebody, especially in, like, a group of guys, because that's the scenario I obviously have more experience in than, like, women, because women on women bullying is way different than guy on guy bullying. But if a guy made fun of me, it would just be something stupid that he would like repeatedly say or do that he would just try to get an anger out of you. He would try to get a rise out of you. It's just like rage baiting. I think there's a difference between rage baiting and literally being like making fun of somebody because they're like obese or like their mom's dead. Like, if you're doing that, that's bullying. If you're walking up to a kid in your school and you're like, yeah, your mom's fucking dead. That's not like picking on somebody. That's like, you're a fucking asshole. Like, you're like that's bullying.
In Indiana, 10-year-old
just repeatedly doing it after somebody asked to stop too.
Sammy Toys was constantly bullied at school. He would come home with bruises as kids would beat him up at school and on the school bus. He was chased, poked, punched, and stuffed into a garbage can. Instead of helping him, Sammy's teachers punished him for, quote, disruptive conduct. Sammy's parents contacted the school 20 times about this problem, but the school did nothing. On May 5th of 2024, Sammy unalived himself. His bullies never received a single consequence for their actions. If his school had stepped in, Sammy would still be alive. This kind of tragedy has happened in multiple schools in multiple states across America, all because schools have failed to take action. This is the same school system that breeds school shootings. There's a strong link between school shooters and having experienced bullying. Adolescents who have been bullied at school are 49% more likely to carry guns.
Yeah, but I don't want to relate that correlation to, because if you're getting bullied, that doesn't. I don't want to make it seem like it's okay to like be a school shooter if you're getting bullied. You know, no matter how bad you're getting bullied, that doesn't mean you bring a gun to school and kill people. The relation's there for sure, but there's no level of bullying where you go, yeah, I'm gonna go kill people.
Carry guns. Our school systems program violence and hatred into students, so it should be no surprise that school shootings are so common in America. But school districts put very little effort into addressing and fixing the root cause that leads to school shooting incidents. If schools actually stood up against bullying instead of always letting it slide, school shootings would decrease drastically. The American school system creates generations of toxic and violent individuals.
Well, it encourages, it's not even necessarily just from the school system, because it encourages, it's not just the school system that's encouraging it. Fuck, I'm stuttering so much during this video, I'm sorry. It's not just the school system that's not stepping in, it's the fact that students and people in young adolescent societies power trip off of pushing other people down. I don't want to say it's animalistic, but it's very similar to like watching fucking walruses fight. It's trying to assert, especially with men, it's like asserting your dominance over other men, and it's toxic. And that's what guys do. Guys will go up to other men and fuck with them to make themselves seem better, either within their own mind or other people's mind, or appeal to other people. They do it because it makes you seem more likable.
They simply become violent adults. But the only thing worse than a violent generation is a violent and uneducated generation. America spends $857 billion annually on K-12 schools, which is $16,280 per student. That's more money per student than any other country. But America ranks 26th in math and 10th in science. Only 26% of 8th graders are proficient at grade level math. One large reason for this is a shortage of teachers.
It is a problem in earlier schooling as well that there are less and less teachers for the amount of students that you're fostering for success. I think as you get older, having a bigger class size isn't a problem because you're independent, and if you need help, you can get it post-school. I think you need to have small classrooms for, you know, second, third, fourth, fifth graders where they're actually learning like foundational abilities that are going to transfer over. Because if you're in fucking second grade and you're in a class, I remember being in second grade and I had a class of like fucking 35 people. One teacher isn't going to teach 35 second graders how to do fucking math because they're all going to be struggling. It's not something where you just immediately pick it up usually. And then if they don't get help there, then they're just fucked. Like if you're good then, and then your sophomore year, you're like a little stuck on fucking algebra 2 or something, you'll be able to get like after class help easier. The bigger the state you live in as well, population wise, the harder it is to get like one-on-one teaching. Teaching isn't personalized is a big issue. And that's what I think brain rot and short attention span is a big problem with why kids suck at fucking school. But it's also they have no interest in it because it's not personalized. The big problem, though, is people look back at it, and older generations that are the rule makers, like boomers or Gen X, look back at it, or even me at sometimes. I look back at it and go, well, I fucking did it, right? And so I look at it and I go, I fucking did it, right? I took fucking bio, and it was boring, but I fucking made myself sit through it. And so they go, well, then there's no need to make a solution, right? But it is a problem, and there is a solution to this problem. It's something that works, and it does help fucking facilitate, you know, functioning society, like members of society. But at the same time, there's so many people that fail in the current school system, and there's ways to make it better for those people. And also the people that are already exceeding would succeed even more in a different school format that is more geared towards your specific interests and one-on-one shit.
Teachers are paid less than the typical working American. Along with this, American teachers work an average of 53 hours a week, 7 hours more than the typical working American. This is because teachers have a lot of duties beyond simply teaching, such as grading, lesson planning, and administrative tasks. And to make matters even worse, students are often disrespectful or sometimes even violent towards their teachers. As a result, the teaching industry has become...
And you know what's so fucked about it, too? When you look at a teacher and they annoy the fuck out of you, and you want to be mean to them, sometimes you will have dickhead teachers. You got to look back, though, and the majority of teachers got into it because they really wanted to help people learn. Not everybody. A lot of people are in it for the benefits or because it's an easy job. But through my experience when I was in college, all of the people that were literature majors and looking to become teachers, like, actually wanted to help people learn. And in 20 years, they're going to fucking hate their job. They're going to hate their students because they're going to be dickheads, right? Why are you going to go in with such an optimistic mindset to immediately be shut down by people that show no respect to you? And then why would you care about them 5-10 years down the line? I don't agree being a teacher is hard. I'm not saying being a teacher is easy. I'm saying people get into teaching because they think it'll be easy.
Between February of 2020 and May of 2022, 300,000 public school teachers quit their jobs. That's roughly 3% of the workforce. Because of this shortage, teachers are now assigned massive class sizes, which makes it harder.
Oh, like, this is fucking terrible. She has to teach all of the... How many kids is this? Fucking 40?
Class sizes, which makes it harder for each student to receive the specialized help they need. This also means that school districts have lowered standards for hiring teachers in order to make up for the shortage. The number of
teachers in different school, like, at least in New Jersey, you could get hired as a teacher without a teaching degree if you're just in school for the teaching degree. I have a friend that literally doesn't have a fucking teaching diploma right now, like, not a teaching diploma. He has like a teaching certificate. He has no degree in the field. He has a fucking like sports degree, and he's teaching because they don't have teachers. And he's like, as long as you're doing the classes now and you're getting the license at some point, it's fine. They'll just let you through.
Qualified teaching hires increased by 69% from 2022 to 2023. Now, American schools are full of terrible, incompetent teachers who are hurting the country. I remember back in high school, teachers would assign us massive packets of reading and questions. Meanwhile, they would sit in their stupid chairs and use their computers instead of actually teaching the class.
If you would just get up and teach them instead of handing them a freaking packet, yo. There's kids in here who don't learn like that. They need to learn face to face.
In America, it's very common to
I mean, he's right though. He's right though. I know that's a meme, but he's fucking right. Having an in-depth, like, if you look back at your school years right now, whatever fucking class you're in, if you're in college, you're out of college, you're in high school, whatever you're doing, chat, there's probably a teacher you had in your life that was your favorite teacher. And the reason they were your favorite teacher is probably because they made the class fun. And that's, and that seems like, oh, wow, they were just such a great teacher. I don't want to shit on their fucking parade. It's not that hard to be interactive. A lot of people just don't care. They fucking barely put in effort. They follow the rigorous schedule that public schooling systems give them, which also demotivates teachers too because they have no individuality. Teaching at a public school basically means that you have to follow a specific rule set and teach everything that they want you to teach. You have no free reign, which is why a lot of good teachers end up going to private schools and getting paid lower salaries because they have higher fucking independence and can actually enjoy their job, which many teachers will opt for. I went to a fucking Catholic school and had teachers that weren't even Christian that said they took a $20K pay decrease to teach at that school because they would rather fucking be able to do what they wanted to do than have to teach very rigorous, like, specifically lined out, like teaching schedules over the course of a year. There's so many problems with U.S. schooling and nobody wants to address it.
To come across classes where students are forced to learn everything by themselves rather than be taught. And no matter how much students and parents complain, school districts almost never do anything about it. Due to the shortage of teachers and the protection from teachers' unions, school districts can't just replace teachers who aren't doing their job. With such terrible teachers, it's only natural that students aren't learning properly. And another big problem is the lack of funding. In America, a big portion of funding for public schools comes from the taxpayer money of the community. This means that schools and
Isn't that the same out of like most countries though, or no? Is that not normal?
Wealthy communities are well funded, but schools in low-income communities are poorly funded. So if you live in America, your quality of education and therefore your prospects of success are largely determined by the community that you live in. This problem can be seen in low-income cities like Detroit, where only 3% of fourth graders are proficient in math. Low-income students
3%
entered high school with literacy skills 5 years behind high-income students. Only 14% of low-income students graduate college, compared to 60%.
Dude, it's also the lack of communicative capabilities through social media and lack of reading. Kids read less and less, and I think there's a way to get around that by making reading more interesting, but a lot of the reading that we do and the reading that goes on generally is like third grader IQ level reading. Politicians have to appeal to audiences using low IQ lingo. Same thing with streamers, same things with YouTubers. The more capable you are to appeal to a broad audience, the more popular you will be, which limits people's capacity to even want to learn other things because then they can't use those to communicate. And then you seem like you're doing too much. Like, have you ever used a big word and people think you're a fucking dweeb or a nerd for it? It makes you not want to actually try and learn. Try to figure out what a specific word means or read a different book or fucking understand the text that you're reading. Because if you end up trying to use that word, now you're doing too much, bro. Just say it's fire. Don't say it's fucking exquisite. Obviously, that would be kind of cringy if you used that word, but you know what I mean. It's like using big words over small words.
Clear that schools and lower income communities need more funding. America spends $857 billion.
It's quite dubious when that happens. I agree. So let's just chat. Just think about the dichotomy of it all.
Funding. America spends $857 billion annually on public education. So where is all of that money going? Well, a big chunk of it is going towards administrative staff. From 2000 to 2019, the number of administrative staff increased by 88%, and the number of principals and assistant assistant principals increased by 37%, while the number of students and teachers only increased by 8%. This shows
So we have more people running shit, but nobody actually helping the students learn.
how a disproportionate share of resources is going into administrative functions rather than directly supporting students and teachers. Maybe if funding was actually allocated correctly, our academic performance wouldn't be so low.
Bro, and what do principals do? Bro, I'm sorry. I have never understood anything that a principal has ever done. When I was in middle school, when I was in high school, I was like, bro, what do you do? Like, what is your job? What is your job? How do you yell at the students? What do you are they like the fucking, just the fucking big man on campus? I don't understand. I get it when they're like also a teacher at the same time, because there was a time where I had a principal that also taught like 2 or 3 classes, and like I was like, yeah, you're here to fucking help the kids learn, right? You're fucking in knee deep with the other teachers. You're working man. You get it. But then you see principals that like never leave their office. Half of y'all probably don't even know your principal.
Another large problem is that schools have allowed students to be lazy. In America, teenagers between ages of 15 and
Awkward.
In America, teenagers between ages of 15 and 17 spend an average of 1 hour a day on homework. Meanwhile, American teenagers spend an average of 8.5 hours on their phone daily.
Which is so bad, but that's my job, dude. That's why social media is also sparking so much, is because you guys consume content more than any previous age group ever. The amount, I'm not, mainly like Gen Alpha upcoming, you guys are Gen Z, so it's like me and you are still in the same generation, but, and so I could, in all honesty, I probably consume the same amount of content that my chat does, but earlier and earlier generations are on their phone and consuming YouTube, Netflix, HBO, Hulu, more and more and more and more, to where it's becoming more and more lucrative to be an influencer. There's more spots to be an influencer. And then people just stop diverting their attention from like the actual job world. And because they're so in on content consumption, all they fixate on doing themselves is being a content creator. And then that like fucks the whole system up. That's why when you ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, they no longer say like firefighter or fucking doctor or school bus driver. They're always like, I want to be a YouTuber.
1 in 5 teenagers report watching YouTube almost constantly, and parents are also responsible for this problem. Only 43% of kids say their parents check their grades more than once a month. As a result, students can laze around and waste their time without being held accountable. Education in America has been in a steady decline for a while now. The government tried to fix these problems by implementing academic standards called the Common Core, but this actually made things even worse. Common Core sets standards for what students should know at each grade level to ensure that students are learning efficiently. And now this all sounds good on paper, but in reality, Common Core has only hurt the education system of America. First off, Common Core operates with a one-size-fits-all approach, which assumes every student learns at the same pace. This system takes power away from teachers and schools who understand their students best, and instead dictates students' learning based off the government's own ideals.
Yeah, it doesn't enable, that's why people hate being public school teachers, because they're not allowed to teach the way they want to.
And the biggest flaw with Common Core is the confusing math methods it imposes onto children. You have 8 seconds to solve this math problem. Go.
35. That's so easy. There's no way. If you are above the age of 10, you should be able to solve that in less than 3 seconds. 35. Oh, hell no.
Was your answer 35? Well, you get 0 points. If you didn't use the quantum linear dimensional isolation method to solve the question, then you didn't do it correctly. This is the BS that every child in America goes through. You see, Common Core
Wait, what? They're like forced to know, they have to show your work? What is this, fucking AP Physics?
requires students to solve math questions using confusing
I get it in AP Physics and shit. If you just know basic math, you just know basic
steps
math.
and algorithms. If students don't use these methods, they automatically fail the question, even if their answer is correct. As a kid, I had a very
that's dumb as shit.
hard time understanding Common Core math, which led to me constantly getting low scores on my tests and classes. It was insanely demoralizing and I felt stupid. Well, it turns out I'm actually really good at math. In high school, where Common Core is less present, learning calculus was very easy
$100 bills, but he's flexing.
for me, and I scored very highly on my exams. I also got a near perfect score on the math segment of my
Okay, buddy, here we go. Bragging. Okay, self-dick riding, are we? All right, fine. All right.
So how come learning basic algebra was so difficult for me as a kid? Common Core has created a very confusing system of learning, which has led many students to learn less efficiently and hate their classes. Common Core? More like Common L. You might be wondering, how does terrible education affect America? Well, the effects are really bad. Because so many students receive terrible education, America now has the worst educated workforce in the industrialized world. 54% of US adults have a reading proficiency below the 6th grade level. And
Yo, we're cooked, dude. 54% of U.S. adults 60 and 74 years old. 130 million people lack proficiency in literacy. Oh my God. Reading below the equivalent of a 6th grade level. What's like an example of like a 6th grade book? It's giving me books about being a 6th grader. Like The Outsiders. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. See, that's a problem. Diary of a Wimpy Kid is made for like 1st graders, bro. I was reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Yeah, I was reading it in 6th grade. I was reading that shit in like, you could read Diary of a Wimpy Kid in fucking kindergarten. The second you know how to read, you can read Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Had 90% of the books fucking anime illustrations. Percy Jackson. I feel like The Hatchet is like, did y'all read The Hatchet? Yeah, that's like a 6th grade book. But not book. Maybe, To Kill a Mockingbird, I don't know. All right, whatever. Let's get back to it. The fact that most adults wouldn't be able to read that.
Reading proficiency below the 6th grade level, and 21% of US adults are illiterate. This is embarrassing.
I'm not getting into this. I'm not getting into this fucking bullshit again. I don't get it. I don't understand how 21% of the United States adults are illiterate. It doesn't make sense to me.
Now you know how bad America's school system is. So how do we fix it? Well, it's actually quite simple. Firstly, to address violence and bullying, schools need to hold students more accountable. Currently, students barely receive any punishment for bullying and violence. There should be more severe consequences, such as mandatory community service or being expelled. This seems like a very simple.
I think being expelled's probably worse. I think making them have to do something that would benefit them. Like I don't want to say like rehab, but like bullies need rehabilitation, dude. They need to be like reintegrated. But I can't sit there and be like, yeah, you're a 15-year-old bully. I'm going to expel you and kind of just basically push you into this path forever versus genuinely like trying to help that person become a good person.
To address the shortage of teachers, America needs to pay teachers more. I mean, we clearly have the money to pay them. Where's that $857 billion going? We also need to remove these teachers who do nothing but hand out packets. The school system is paying them as they contribute to the academic downfall of the country. The problem of low-funded schools is also
I feel like packet work was most common in middle school. Am I wrong? I don't really remember getting packets in high school. I did go to a Catholic high school, though, so that was what was different. I feel like packet work, though, was more common when you were younger.
Pretty simple fix. Public schools need more funding from state and federal governments. Also, Common Core needs to go. There has not been any academic progress attributed to the implementation of Common Core. Common Core is only hurting the academic progress in America. I recently made a video about the horrible education systems in many Asian.
Yeah, we watched that video. That was a fucking good-ass video, too. I enjoyed that. All right, last video of the fucking day.